The other part of the ban is Russian oil. When it comes to gas, as I've told you many times, Europe gets 40% of its gas from the Russians. They also get a sizable chunk of their oil from the Russians. And while they're not talking about gas, the EU Commission, especially von der Leyen, is mentioning a ban on all Russian oil, okay? And this is, of course, very, very serious. She used to be the German defense minister, and she is now the head of the EU Commission, okay? So she was talking about getting the sanctions package moved forward. Let's take a look.
Today, we are addressing our dependency on Russian oil, and let's be clear, it will not be easy, because some member states are strongly dependent on Russian oil, but we simply have to do it. So today, we will propose to ban all Russian oil from Europe. This will be
Look at all those robots.
This will be a complete import ban on all Russian oil, seaborne and pipeline, crude and refined. Putin wanted to wipe out Ukraine from the map. And he...
What? That's literally... You just made that up. You just made that up.
Will clearly not succeed. On the contrary, Ukraine has risen in bravery and in unity. And it is his own country, Russia, that Putin is sinking. Honourable members, we want Ukraine to win this war.
That clapping was really something, man. Of course, when she says that the only country being sunk is Russia, she's not telling you this part, right? This is from Fortune. They say the cost of living crisis exacerbates Europe's quest for consensus over Russian oil embargo. So at the same time, they're slapping Russia with all these sanctions. You already know this. The cost of living is going up in the States and particularly in Europe. I tried getting sunflower oil, sold out in the store, online. And of course, this is not the only thing. If you go and look at supermarket chains like Aldi, which is very big in Germany, they have Aldi Nord, Aldi Süd. They are raising the prices on many, many food items. I think it was, again, this is from a few weeks ago. It's probably changed now to include more. But it's between, on some items, between 20 to 50%. And you might think that's nothing, right? Oh, no, man. A lot of people do not have this money. They have to pinch pennies. And this is a huge dramatic effect. And they were very dishonest about all of this, right? So in the beginning, they say, oh, yeah, well, this is a price of fighting freedom, no. And then after the deed is done, Biden's like, well, there are going to be food shortages. I never said this was going to be easy. No, you never said any of this. You never said anything about food shortages. I'm not trying to exaggerate it beyond what it is. But I think it's also kind of insulting and arrogant to assume that, yeah, everybody can afford these higher prices and it's worth it. Yeah. Says who? The millionaires. Literally millionaires. Like, I'm pretty sure she's well off. But other Democrats in the US and EU bureaucrats who are stinking rich, of course they can afford it. Of course it's an easy price to pay. For you, there are countries in Europe, there's a split. With the gas payments, for example, some countries said, no way, hell no, we're not paying Russia with rubles for their gas. And those countries are, for example, Poland and Bulgaria. There are countries that are going for this. Among them are Austria, Germany, Italy, Hungary. They're okay with this because they need the gas. And now when it comes to oil, look what's going on. So this is from CNN. And they say Hungary says no to the proposed Russian oil ban. Okay? So the plan immediately ran into opposition from EU countries seeking a longer transitional period, including Hungary, which has already been offered an extra year to ditch Russian oil. Quote, the proposal on behalf of Brussels is suggesting that it should be done by the end of next year, a spokesperson for Viktor Orban, the prime minister, told CNN. Quote, the shortest period, we've been clear on that, our oil companies have been clear on that, is 3 to 5 years. So you see what's going on. You have von der Leyen, the blonde woman I just showed you, the head of the EU Commission, who is, again, an unelected Brussels bureaucrat, basically like dictating to everybody, this is the plan now, and we don't care what capacity you're at, what your infrastructure looks like, what your needs look like, what your consumption looks like. This is the plan. We're going to do it by the end of the year. What fairy tale planet do you come from that you think you can just phase out Russian oil by the end of the year? Now, don't get me wrong. The dependence on Russian oil in Europe is not as bad as the gas. That they haven't even touched the gas. And I think that speaks volumes, right? Although, given the urge for self-destruction that you're seeing in the EU, like their urge to just burn everything down because they're not paying for it, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually started with that soon. Crude oil supply would be phased out within 6 months, right? That's what she's saying. And imports of refined oil products by the end of 2022. So basically 6 to 9 months. And they say here, news of the proposal boosted crude oil prices by about 4%. Brent, which is the global benchmark, was trading at nearly $109 a barrel, while the US oil futures were above $106 a barrel. Look at this. Oil prices have risen by about 40% since the start of the year on fears that Russia's invasion of Ukraine will deliver a supply shock, fueling inflation and piling pressure on European economies. Now, again, this is very true that the price of oil has gone up. Who pays for that? Consumers. I can tell you this as for a fact because when I did my report on Yemen, and I keep bringing this up so to urge you to go read it because you'll understand what's in store for Europe and the rest of the world. When you don't have fuel, you have inflation. Everything gets screwed because everything depends on fuel. And this is just a tiny taste of what is coming. And who pays the cost? Do you think it's the politicians? No. Do you think it's Russia? No. Russia's actually getting paid more because the prices have gone up. The people who will pay for the higher oil prices, as they say, 40% they've gone up since the start of the war, are the consumers. That's you, that's me, and I don't mean people who are filling up their tank. No, you don't understand. Everything depends on oil. Everything depends on fuel. Agriculture, industry, services. So the consumers, the peasants, right? Not fancy Mrs. von der Leyen. The peasants will pay for these higher costs. Do you understand? They're shifting that onto you and then saying, well, it's the price of democracy. Oh, really? That's funny. So you got all these billions of dollars for your friends to sell weapons, but you don't have that money to, pay the difference of the higher food prices that you insist on having and making sure because you don't want to. You told Russia to go screw itself when they sent you the drafts, the proposals in December, and you still won't engage in diplomacy. You just keep sending weapons. You're really funny. And now you want to sanction things, making the prices go up even higher. You're really funny. You can still attribute blame to Russia. Go ahead. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm telling you that you take a bad situation and then make it 10 times worse and then blame everything on Russia. This is ridiculous. Putin is not going to feel the sanctions. I'm laughing because I feel this is so silly. I have to explain this so many times. The sanctions target Putin in name. And I want to go back to the article here. Hungary said it could not back this oil ban in its current form because it was worried about what it would mean for the country's energy security. Nearly 60% of its imported oil came from Russia in 2021. They know that Hungary is getting 60% of its oil from Russia, and they're telling them you have to phase it out by the end of the year. What kind of logistical balls up is that? It's really ridiculous. Slovakia, which got 92% of its oil imports from Russia last year, and the Czech Republic have also sought longer transition periods than those envisaged by the EU plan. Russia is the world's second biggest crude oil exporter, and last year accounted for about 27% of EU oil imports. The US, Canada, UK, and Australia have already banned imports. Of course they do. Of course they did because they don't depend on Russian oil or gas at all. But just to give you an idea of how volatile this is, just the news of the US wanting to ban Russian oil, it only gets 3% of its oil from Russia. It sent the oil prices up, and we were watching that live together, you remember? And then when they actually banned it, they went up even higher. They're saying here that Russia's ability to redirect all unwanted cargoes from the West to Asia are limited, meaning that in the case of embargoes, Russia will be forced to cut production further as it lacks storage capacity for extra crude volumes. This is from Rystad Energy in their report. That's their opinion. They're saying the surge in global oil prices and natural gas prices means Moscow continues to earn vast amounts of money from its energy exports. Pay attention to this. Rystad estimates that Russia will collect more than $180 billion in energy tax revenues this year, up 45% compared to 2021, despite the oil production cuts. So you see what's going on? Because the West is shooting itself in the foot for no need. They are creating the scarcity, and that's causing the oil prices to go up and the gas prices. And so Russia is still getting paid by Europe, but they're getting paid even more because the Europeans are the ones who drove up the prices. I've never heard of such stupidity in my life. One thing that my gut feeling, and again, I'm just speculating, although some of it came true. The reason they want to get rid of Russia is because they want the Americans to take a share of that market. Do you understand? There's two objectives here. It's not just money, it's geopolitical, right? So you basically divide and conquer. Instead of having Russia build Nord Stream 2 with Germany and they get closer to each other, or Russia gets closer to Europe, you dead that. You cut that off. You stop it. You separate them. You make Europe hate Russia and Germany hate Russia. And then you give them some of that gas. And let's be very clear. The gas, the LNG that the US is giving Europe is nothing. It's chicken shit compared to what Russia gives them. It's 10%, not 10% of what Europe needs, 10% of what Russia gives them. It's nothing. So this goes back to the problem of stupidity, because Europe does not have the infrastructure to get gas from other places. And when it comes to oil, they are asking countries like Slovakia and Hungary, who depend very, very heavily on Russian oil, to just magically substitute that with something else. Again, I don't understand this from a logistical point of view. I'm not trying to be snarky or say, oh, you're so stupid. I really don't get it. I don't understand this.